Hello guys, it's Tom here from MicroCom. Hope you're very well. Now today you join us in the studio to have a quick look through the MicroCom M and the MicroCom XR from Pliant Technologies. This is going to be a deep dive video into the setup of these two units and the various modes as well to see what they offer us and the main differences between the two. Now we have already done a video on the MicroCom M and XR, just a quick introduction for what they are and what they offer us. If you haven't already seen that video, we're going to link it down in the description for you. But let's jump in, take a little look at these two units, what they offer us, and get going. If we start with the M then, so the smaller unit of the two, and look at the buttons on the sort of body of the unit before we get into the menus. So on the right hand side, most importantly, we've got our power button. So we're going to press and hold that, and you'll see the screen light up, flash for a second, and then there we go, we're on the main screen. Below that, we've got two rubberized sort of flaps here. If we pull those out, that is for our headphone outs, depending on whether we're using a single or dual auxiliary. On the front of the unit, we've got a rubberized mode button that's used for flicking between the various settings. And below that, the largest button on the front with the MicroCom logo on it, that is our push to talk button to activate when we want to speak or when we want to mute ourselves. On the left-hand side, we've got another two rubberized buttons with a plus and a minus icon. That's both our volume when we're not in the menu settings. When we are in the menu settings, those are used for navigation, for flicking between things. And below that, we've got our charging input. So again, rubberized flap. We lift that out, there's a micro USB in there, plug your charger in, and when you're done, you just reseal it. So let's take a look at the actual settings of the unit. So the main screen shows us our volume. That can be adjusted on the fly at all times, just using these two buttons on the side. So to change our varying settings then. Now this is a single channel unit, so there's not too many things we need to sort of fiddle around with to get ourselves up and rolling. We're going to press and hold this mode button on the front for 3 seconds, and we'll see on the front of the unit, GRP, so group, start to flash. That shows us that we are in the setup menu now. So that first menu screen is the group. That chooses sort of which group you want your unit to be in. You can have a range of groups, sort of units in different groups operating in the same area, just to keep teams split essentially. So you select your group, again using that plus and minus button on the left-hand side to scroll through. Now Pliant do recommend as well, if you do have a load of units operating in quite close quarters to each other, that with your groups you have a spacing of 10 between them. So say your first group you set up is on sort of 0, 2. If you've got another group of units operating nearby, they recommend you would be at 12 or above. It doesn't have to be exactly 10. It can be more than that, but they say a minimum of 10 spacing just to make sure there's no sort of interference or anything. So when you've decided on the group you want, you single press mode again to flick through to the next screen, and that is your ID number for the unit. So the ID number is quite simple. It goes from 00, which is the master unit. You do have to have a master as well for any of the groups you're setting up. So 00 is the master. You'll also see it comes up with MR highlighted on the screen to show you the pack is the master. You then use that plus and minus to scroll through. So we've got ID 01, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 00 to 04, those are the full duplex slots. 05 is the ID for listen only. So any packs you set to 05 won't have the ability to speak into the full duplex system, but they can hear everything that's going on. Press mode again, and we see S1 comes up on the screen. So the S setting is your side tone. That's the level at which you can hear yourself in your headset. S0 is side tones off, and you do get a little mute icon as well, pop up by the battery icon at the top of the screen. S1 is the standard setting, and you can run it all the way up to S5, so you can hear your voice loudest in your headset. This is a great feature if you do have a closed back headset on both ears where you can't really hear your voice, or if you are in louder environments again and you want to be able to hear the sort of level you're speaking at. So once we've chosen the setting we want to stick with for side tone, we press mode one more time, and we then get a screen either saying PF or PO. PO is your full duplex, PF is listen only. Press mode again when we've decided what we want the unit to be, and we go over to the C. So at the moment it's flashing on C1, and that is our microphone sensitivity. C1 is the lowest, and you can run that all the way up to C5, which is the highest, and that's to adjust if you are in louder environments or quieter environments and you don't want your microphone to be as sensitive to pick up external noise and send that into the communication system. Press mode one more time and we get to a screen with UL or UH, and that is your gain settings, so high output or low output. Press mode one more time and we return to the group settings. So we've done a full cycle through the menus. If we're happy with everything, press and hold mode one more time, 3 seconds. And you'll see we go back to that volume menu. That means we're all set, we're all ready to go, and all the settings we've done here, as long as you duplicate them across the other units you want in the same group, then you should be all good to go. You can check when your packs are logged in and talking to each other as well, because you'll see there's an LED blinking at the top of the unit here, this blue LED. If it's blinking as a solo blink, solo blue blink, that means the unit's on, but it's not connected. When it's on and logged in to the duplex system and it's able to talk, it will be double blinking. There's an LED next to that as well to show charging. So we do have a battery icon actually on the screen itself, but to make sure you do see that the unit is actually charging, there will be a red LED at the top once it's plugged in, and that goes out once it is fully charged, so you can just check at a glance. So let's move on. That's the MicroCom M all done, and take a look at the XR. Same as the M, let's start with the body of the unit and see the various buttons we have. A couple of changes here. So on the front, we've got the power button. So we're going to hold that down to power it on. We see the screen comes on. Next to that, we've got the mode button. Below that, the same push to talk button as well. On the side, rubberized plus and minus for the volume and adjusting the settings, exactly the same as the M. On the top then, we've got another button that acts as a sort of secondary push-to-talk function, which we'll get to. There's not many situations you need to use this, but that does come in there as well. And on the base, we have our headphone output. So again, a rubberized flap, lift that and you've got your auxiliary in there. And then we've got our charging point as well, which we just unfold. Now, to remove the battery pack on here, as this does have the battery that can be charged in an external holder or replaced if you need to, rather than sort of waiting for the unit to charge up itself, you'll see there is the belt clip. What we're going to do is we're going to lift this slightly and push it down. You'll feel it slide down a bit, that unlatches it. Pull from the top, down clips, the battery's in here, and we do just take it out. Nice and simple, no wires at all. Battery then just plugs straight back in, either a new one or the same one, whichever it is you do. Clip the back panel back on, so you make sure you line it up. There's a couple of little grooves as well to get it in. Make sure you're happy with that. Clicks in place like so, and then you slide that belt clip back up to lock it all into place. So if we have a look at the settings then, because there are a few differences here between the XR and the M. First of all, you'll see we've got a larger screen. So this is an OLED screen as opposed to an LCD screen on the M. To start with, this unit is dual channel rather than single channel. So to flick quickly between channel A and channel B, we just quickly press the mode button. Just a quick single press that switches between channel A, CHA on front, and CHB. So at the bottom, we can see the volume we are currently set to. We've got a signal indicator. We've got an indicator showing us what our belt pack ID is set to without actually having to flick to the ID menu. We can see it just at a glance, and then our battery indicator as well. So to go into the settings, we're going to hold mode for 3 seconds. And that brings us into the setup screen. So the first one, it's all numbered as well. This one's really nice and easy actually to navigate through. So we start with the group. You navigate through using the plus and the minus buttons on the left-hand side and choose whichever group you want. Now, this is the same recommendation as the M, that if you've got units operating in close proximity to each other, that you have groups that are sort of 10 values apart. If you've got one on group 5, then you want your close by unit to be on group 15 or more, ideally. So once we're happy with the group we have this set to, so I'm on group 5 at the moment, that'll do. So I'm going to press mode, a single press, and that takes us to the ID screen. So there's a few changes here. We've got ID M, which is the master. Again, in each group you have to have a master belt pack. As we scroll through, we've then got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then S and L. So the full duplex is that M to 08. The S is shared users, and then the L is the listen-only ID. Shared users, you can have an unlimited number of them. However, they do take up one of the 10 full duplex slots, so it is worth noting that. But you can have as many as you want, just make sure you've set them all to S if that is what you want that function to be. As well, those shared users, only one of them can talk at a time, so it's slightly different to the duplex where everyone can speak over each other or whenever you need to. If you are on shared, there's only one person or one of the units who can be relaying audio into the system. Once we're happy with our ID then, once we've found which one we want, press mode again, just a single press to flick through to the next setting, which is side tone, so your ability to hear yourself in your headset. We have off, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. 5 being the highest level, off being off. So the standard is 1 again, but you can adjust that depending on your situation. Single press mode to progress, we've got our mic gain. 8 is the highest value all the way down to 1. We can also disable our channels if we want to just completely lock channel B off to make sure people don't accidentally, say, nudge the unit and flick over to the wrong channel without realizing. So we press mode again to flick between, and that's where we get to our security code settings. So all of the belt packs in a group need to have the same security code for them to be able to sort of communicate with each other. You'll see it blinking on the first digit of the code. Use the volume plus or minus to select a value. When you found the value you want, single press mode again, and that will jump over to the next value for each 4 values. Press mode one more time, and we return to the group settings. If we're happy with everything, press and hold the mode button, and we return the main screen. So our push to talk functionality then. We've got a couple of buttons here. So the main one on the front, that push to talk button, is a latching button if we need it to be. We can single press it, and you can see it illuminates on the screen with talk. That shows that talk's on all the time, and we're communicating with the duplex system. Press it again, and it goes off, so we're no longer talking. Now, what you can do is leave it off, but press and hold the button. As long as you're holding it, and it's more than 2 seconds, when you release, it will turn it back off again, so you can say what you need to say, let go, and then it goes back to no longer being on, so you don't have to worry that any sort of noise you're making is going into the system. Now, there is a secondary button here. It's that button I mentioned earlier, up on the top. So this button here is the two-way push-to-talk button. So if you have a two-way radio connected to the master belt pack, you may use this top push-to-talk button to activate talk for the two-way radio from any belt pack on the system. When you press and hold that as well, you see it come up on the screen. It says talk and then two-way push-to-talk. Other than that, you can leave it latched on, latched off, however you like. But that is the main settings for the MicroCom XR. Now we're going to move on to the modes the XR has. This is where it differentiates from the M. So not only is it 2-channel, it also has varying modes to get the most out of it for the kind of environment you're in. There are 3 operating modes we have available to us. There's standard, repeater, and roam. Now repeater is the modes the unit actually defaults to. Standard is quite simply all of the units in full duplex as long as they've got line of sight. That's it, plain and simple, standard mode. Repeater mode extends this beyond line of sight by utilising a master belt pack that should be in a central or prominent location. Roam mode takes this one step further and gives even greater coverage range by having a master and a sub-master pack, again in prominent central locations where the surrounding packs connect to those, so it extends the range of the system beyond line of sight. So ideal if you're, say, in a larger stage environment and you've got people working in different areas with breaks in line of sight, that extends that further. So if we take a look then about how we access this menu and change our operating mode, we're going to press and hold the mode button alongside that push to talk button on the top of the unit by the antenna. So we press and hold the 2 of those. That takes us into the tech menu. We use, again, the plus and minus volume buttons on the left-hand side to navigate. We've got ST, standard, RP, repeater, and RM, roam. We flick through, we hover over the one we want, and then we're going to press and hold the mode button to select it. Now, when you do this, the unit is actually going to fully power down. Once it's done that, power it back up with the power button and it will be in the mode you've chosen. So if we start with standard then, so I'm going to flick through, select standard, press and hold mode, and the unit powers off. Once it's powered off, I'm going to press and hold the power button, and you can see at the bottom of the unit we've got ST labelled there. So in standard mode then, it's nice and simple to set up. You still do have to have a master pack set up, so if we press and hold mode and we cycle to the ID, just make sure you've got at least one of them set to M. Full duplex IDs are all set from 01 to 09, and then once again shared is on S and listen only is on L. And if you do have shared users, then ID number 9, the last full duplex slot, can't be used. The listen only users, they don't step on the toes of the full duplex system at all. Confirm the device's security code, make sure it matches the others in the group, and you are all good to go. Right then, so I'm now going to show you how to configure it when you're in repeater mode. So we can see repeater mode is listed at the bottom right, it says RP. We're going to hold mode to go into the settings as we did before. And here, this is just a simple setup that we were running through earlier in the video. So we need to choose our group. We then flick through, and there's a few changes with IDs compared to standard mode. So again, you do need to have a master ID, so set to M. You then have all the units you want in full duplex should be set from numbers 01 to 08, plus the master, of course. You then have two more ID options, S and L. Shared belt packs must use the SID, and you can duplicate this across multiple belt packs, but only one may talk at a time. And note that if you do have shared users, it takes up one of the full duplex slots, so ID 08 can't be used in repeater mode. And then listen only devices use the LID. You may duplicate this across multiple devices, and again, same as standard mode, the L setting doesn't actually step on the toes of the full duplex system at all. You then want to confirm your security code, make sure that's the same across all your belt packs, press and hold menu, and you are good to go. Roam mode then. Roam mode is the last setting we have available and gives us the high sort of level of range compared to the other two modes. So once we're in roam mode, we've selected, we can see it says RM at the bottom right of the screen. If we press and hold mode and head into our settings, there are a few differences here. So we set up our group as normal, as we have done before. Click mode over to ID, and this is where the changes really start. So we have to have a master belt pack and a sub-master belt pack to start with. They are absolute musts. So master is M, sub-master is SM. We've then got full duplex from 02 up to 09, shared on S, and then listen only on L. It's worth noting as well, same as before, if you do have shared users, that it actually knocks off one of the full duplex slots. It replaces the last slot in the system. So ID 09, that last full duplex slot gets replaced by those shared users. Moving on through the settings, we've got side tone as normal, as before, mic gain, our security code, but then we have a new menu icon. We get to number 6, and we actually have a roaming setting where we have a few different options. So here, you can see it's blinking on auto at the moment. Auto is where the belt pack itself will choose automatically whether to connect to the master belt pack or the sub-master belt pack, and it will just do it as it sees fit to maintain a connection. You can flick that to manual, where you manually choose whether you want it to be on the master or sub-master. You do that by pressing the mode button when you are on the main screen. We've then got master, where you can lock it just to connect to the master so people can't fiddle with it or accidentally flick between, or you can lock it to the sub-master. Once you have got to the setting you want and you're happy with it, press and hold the mode button. As long as you put your security code in as well, remember to do that so all your units are on the same security code, and that's it in roam mode. You're good to go. Now, another difference between the XR and the M, you'll notice we have a larger antenna indicative of that extended range. You can take this one step further because the antenna is actually removable with a reverse thread as well. It's worth noting. So what we can do, if I dig into my magic box down here, is actually attach a larger external antenna. So say you're in a car but you still need access to the duplex system, you can have a longer wire or an external antenna attached into the top, pop it on the roof or wherever you are, and extends the range even further. So batteries and charging then, and the accessories that go alongside these units to improve them for you. So we ran through how the battery comes out of the XR. Now Pliant can help you out here because actually we have a drop-in adapter for 5 XR units, but also 5 of the removable batteries. So in essence, you've got 10 units charging at once. So if you have got a sort of large group of units operating at once, you haven't got to worry about batteries. Now the M doesn't have a removable battery, it is an internal rechargeable. And if you want to keep your units together whilst charging, Pliant offer a 5-splitter USB, so you can have one plug into the mains and all of your devices kept together. Now important, of course, with these systems, it's all very well you saying things into your full duplex system, communicating with your team, but you want headsets to be able to hear each other and you want to get the best out of the system. So Pliant do offer a range of headsets. Now we've got a few of them here with us today. We've got the Smart Boom Pro Solo and we've got the Smart Boom Pro Dual as well. So these headsets are the larger closed cup headsets with that Smart Boom function. You lift the boom, you lower the boom and it mutes and unmutes the microphone. Now if you want a lower profile headset or you don't have the need for sort of a headset such as these, there is also a Smart Boom Lite that retains that Smart Boom function if that's handy to you, but you do have a more lightweight headset. And then we've got a couple of specialty headsets Pliant offer as well. If you don't even need a headset like this, you don't need an over-ear headset. There is the earbud with a fixed boom mic we can see on the end of the table there. But if you don't want a fixed boom, if you want maximum sort of concealment, then they do also offer a lav mic with an ear tube as well. Now, of course, the last thing we want is our connectors coming loose when we're on set or whatever we're doing. So actually they're really nice and snug on these. It's a great feature. So make sure when you've pushed your sort of jack in or connector, whatever it is, give it another firm press and make sure it is firmly seated in there. Right, so another feature on the physical belt packs themselves is you can actually lock them to stop sort of tampering or accidental adjustments of settings. You can do this both on the M and on the XR as well, done in the same way on both. So on the M, we're going to hold both the mode and the push to talk button together, keep them held for 3 seconds, and we'll see it pops up on the screen with LC, lock. To take it out of lock, you just press and hold those 2 buttons again for a few seconds. On the XR, it's exactly the same. Press and hold mode and the talk button. Keep them held for 3 seconds. And you see we get this little padlock icon show up on the screen, just like the M. Press and hold the same 2 buttons again for 3 seconds to take the lock off. Right then, the MicroCom M and the MicroCom XR. That is the setup process for these 2 units. Now we know rolling through settings isn't exactly the most exhilarating video in the world, but hopefully you found it helpful, or if your units are on the way to you, gives you good insight of how to get yourself set up right out the box so you can really make the most out of these fantastic products. If you have enjoyed the video or found it helpful, please do consider hitting that like button and subscribe, maybe even that bell icon to make sure you don't miss any of our future videos. But thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Tom from Raycom TV, and we will see you in the next video.